3 teams, at least 3 teams will come calling for his services next year.
And then we settled in, we got in the groove, able to show the run the ball a little.
Just very grateful for the respect and hope I gave the same thing back to you guys. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Super Wild Card Weekend was awesome. I mean, unless if you were a Chargers fan, a Seahawks fan, or a Ravens fan, or a Dolphins fan, for the most part, it was an incredible weekend of football. And all of it led up to a game that I myself, as a Cowboy fan, was very nervous about, as the Dallas Cowboys faced off against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Monday Night Football. So I have a lot to discuss here, man. Before we get to the content, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. If you want to go the extra mile to support the channel, make sure you check us out on Patreon or my channel memberships program to directly support the channel in the event I get copyright claim or my videos get demonetized. Now that we get all that out of the way, break! A lot of you guys have been hitting me up in the DMs telling me how much money you've been making on Prize Picks. A huge shout out to my subscriber Spencer Sims, who's made $7,000 off of his picks over the past 2 weeks. If you follow me on Instagram, you know I play Prize Picks religiously and I post my picks to my story each and every day. And if you want to try out Prize Picks right now, when you use my promo code Mikerophone, you'll get up to a $100 deposit match on your first deposit. And if you get any big hits on Prize Picks, make sure you DM them to me on Instagram so I could feature you in future promos. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? The Dallas Cowboys had themselves one hell of a season. The most scrutinized team in the entire NFL had to overcome a lot of adversity to get to the situation they're in currently, including a Dak Prescott injury towards the beginning of the season that essentially ended their season, or was supposed to end their season before it even started. The Cowboys built an identity based off of playing suffocating defense. However, as the season went on, there was this one characteristic of Dallas Cowboys teams that I, for one, am all too familiar with. Towards the latter part of the season, the Dallas Cowboys didn't look like the well-oiled machine that they were back in October or even November. As a matter of fact, they were barely able to defeat the Tennessee Titans, despite the Tennessee Titans starting Josh Dobbs, which is their third-string quarterback. Dak Prescott made a myriad of errors in that game. And if that wasn't terrifying enough, in their season finale versus the Washington Commanders, a game that you'd have to assume they were trying their best to win, because if somehow, some way, the New York Giants were able to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, which, by the way, the Giants did play their second unit, but I'm assuming the Cowboys play their starters in the event that the Giants were somehow able to win that game, you would have to think that they gave maximum effort on week 18. And man, if there was any game that could destroy any hope there is whatsoever of the Cowboys being successful in the playoffs, it would be that game. Dak Prescott, a quarterback who has always been lauded for his ability to make intelligent football decisions, only completed 37% of his passes. He threw 1 touchdown and 1 pick six. He had 128 passing yards in that game. Cowboys lost to the Commanders 6-26. By the way, the Commanders were starting their third-string quarterback that game, Sam Howell. So definitely not how you want to go into Tampa Bay. Dak Prescott had one of his worst seasons to date, throwing 23 touchdowns and 15 interceptions. So there was a lot of reasons to be pessimistic as a Cowboy fan coming into this game. And that's before you go on social media and get reminded repeatedly that Tom Brady has a history of kicking this team's ass, including week 1 of this past year. If that wasn't recent enough for you, well, in week 1 the year before, Tom Brady was able to beat the Dallas Cowboys with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as well. And you'd get reminded of this constantly. I mean, Tom Brady even rubbed it in himself.
Are you 6-0 versus Cowboys? I know you know that too. Well, just because I looked at it this week.
And then they would throw out cute little statistics, such as the Dallas Cowboys have not won a road game since January 17th, 1993, when Tom Brady was a freshman in high school. Oh, this one's my favorite. Tom Brady career playoff wins, 35. Cowboys franchise playoff wins, 35. Tom Brady is 7-0 all-time versus the Dallas Cowboys. And also, if Tom Brady happens to win 2 more games in these playoffs, then he'll have more playoff wins than any team in NFL history. So I think the thing that's the most terrifying about this is the fact that Tom Brady is the underdog in the playoffs here. And historically, when Tom Brady has been an underdog, well, Tom Brady ended up kicking his opponents. From the Tampa Bay Buccaneers point of view, they've had one of the most tumultuous seasons that I think I've ever seen. And that's saying something considering everything that Tom Brady has gone throughout his entire career. We're not going to include the fact that Antonio Brown marched off the field at the end of last season because that was last season. But in this past offseason alone, Rob Gronkowski retired, Ali Marpet retired, the Buccaneers let Ndamukong Suh go, Bruce Arians decided to retire, and the Buccaneers decided to move forward with Todd Bowles in the form of Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs, which made it even more difficult considering how Ali Marpet retired. And that's before we get to Tom Brady's personal problems that were a major storyline in the NFL this season. If you remember, in the beginning of the season, we were talking about Tom Brady and Gisele's divorce multiple times. I can only imagine how much of a distraction that was. The point being that both of these teams had a myriad of obstacles to get to where they are right now. And as a result, the stakes for this game couldn't be any higher, except for Mike McCarthy, who was guaranteed by Jerry Jones that he has job security no matter what happens in this game. The first half for the Dallas Cowboys went as well as they could have ever hoped it would. After 4 straight drives between the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Dallas Cowboys, where they would each go 3 and out to start, the Dallas Cowboys would drive down 7 plays for 80 yards in a drive that would result with Dak Prescott finding Dalton Schultz for 22 yards and scoring a touchdown. A huge storyline in the first half is this would be the first time that Brett Maher would miss the extra point. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers would get the ball back. They would drive all the way down the field trying to get back the momentum, but unfortunately that drive would end with a Tom Brady interception in the red zone by Jaron Kearse. Upon receiving the football back, the Dallas Cowboys would once again drive the ball in a clock-eating 8-minute drive for 15 plays and 80 yards, and probably their most dramatic drive of the half, where Dak Prescott would convert on 4th and goal with a 1-yard scramble for a touchdown. Once again, Brett Maher would miss his field goal going wide right. Fortunately for the Cowboys, the defense once again came to play, because this time the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would go 5 and out, which would give the Cowboys offense the ball once again, this time driving down 11 plays in 3 minutes and 5 seconds, with a drive that would conclude with Dak Prescott passing to Dalton Schultz for an 11-yard touchdown. But once again, Brett Maher would miss the field goal. And this was the storyline of the entire first half. I mean, if you're a kicker in the NFL, one would assume that you are capable of making extra points. But Brett Maher wasn't even missing field goals. He was missing extra point attempts. And as a result, Cowboys would be up 18-0 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. A score that most Cowboys fans would be comfortable with if they weren't facing off Tom Brady, a man that is literally known as Captain Comeback. By the end of the first half, Dak Prescott went 15 of 20 for 189 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, was sacked once, and had a passer rating of 137.3, whereas Tom Brady went 11 for 23 through 96 passing yards and 1 interception. But regardless, man, no matter how well the Cowboys perform in the first half, no matter what, whenever you're going up against the greatest of all time, you should feel uncomfortable, especially when your best defensive player happens to be limping off of the field, which is what happened to Micah Parsons. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers would get the ball to start the third quarter, and in 49 seconds, they would go 3 and out once again. Upon receiving the ball, the Dallas Cowboys would drive 86 yards and would conclude with a Dak Prescott touchdown to Michael Gallup. The storyline at this point became, what are the Cowboys going to do? Are the Dallas Cowboys going to elect to allow Brett Maher to kick yet another extra point?
Unfortunately, they did.
And Brett Maher continued his record-breaking night, missing his 4th consecutive extra point. I want to get your guys' take in the comment section down below. At this point, do you continue to allow Brett Maher to kick extra points despite him missing each and every extra point? Or do you just go for 2? Because if you go for 2, you just clearly imply that you lost all confidence in your kicker, but he clearly isn't making his extra points. So what do you do at that point? Let me know in the comment section down below. Now, Tom Brady would drive down and throw an absolute strike to Julio Jones, but in truly poetic fashion, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would not be able to convert the 2-point conversion. The Cowboys would drive back down the field one more time, and they would be faced with a 4th and 4. Unfortunately, due to the fact that Brett Maher has had a horrific game so far, and he wasn't even able to hit an extra point, I'd assume Kellen Moore decided to send his back over to the sideline. As a result, on 4th and 4, Dak Prescott was able to find CeeDee Lamb for his 5th touchdown of the game. The Cowboys went up 31-6 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and honestly, I never thought I would sit down and witness an all-time masterclass performance from Dak Prescott tonight. I had a lot of pessimism coming into this game considering what we saw against the Washington Commanders, and just based upon the opening drives versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, facing off against the greatest quarterback of all time. And bear in mind all the statistics I've showed you in regards to Tom Brady's history versus the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, I was never more pessimistic in my life coming into a playoff game more than I was tonight. I was pleasantly surprised, and this was obviously the greatest scenario. I would be lying if I didn't say this was a euphoric feeling for me as a Dallas Cowboy fan, but you have to also understand the amount of pain and suffering I've undergone as a Cowboy fan. I don't necessarily know how next week is going to look. I don't necessarily know how far this team could go. I'm just going to take some time to enjoy the fact that we won a game that I wasn't necessarily very confident in us winning tonight against a truly gigantic obstacle in the greatest quarterback of all time. I think it was incredibly important for Dak Prescott to have a game like he did tonight, facing off against a quarterback that has beaten him every single time they faced off against each other throughout his career and performing flawlessly on national television. There was some adversity that the Cowboys had to overcome. Jaron Kearse got injured. Brett Maher was missing his extra points. But through it all, tonight was one of those nights where proper game planning met execution. The offense played perfectly. The defense set up the offense in situations where they could succeed. Micah Parsons had remarkable plays disrupting Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was truly a joy to watch as a Cowboy fan that has experienced a lot of L's over the past couple of weeks. With that being said, one has to wonder if the Dallas Cowboys just ended Tom Brady's career. On one hand, a part of me feels like if Tom Brady went through what he went through personally over this past year with Giselle and their divorce, and football reportedly being a symptom of their divorce, or at least that's what the rumor was, one would have to think that this is not it for Tom Brady's career. It would be a very interesting way for Tom Brady to go out. At the same time, one has to think that his chapter with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has to be done. I mean, this past offseason, I don't know if it's the fact that he decided to announce his retirement and then come back right before free agency, right when everyone had their plans made, but he wasn't necessarily able to get any new weapons on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers did have some trouble throughout the season in regards to injuries to Shaq Barrett, who is a very important player on their defensive line. But on their offensive line, they saw Ali Marpet retire. They saw Ryan Jensen and Tristan Wirfs get injured throughout the season. So it was a very challenging season for Tom Brady. There are rumors linking him to the Las Vegas Raiders, and we're going to definitely be breaking this down throughout the season. But are the Las Vegas Raiders truly an upgrade over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? I mean, if he goes to Las Vegas, he has players like Mac Hollins, Darren Waller, Devontae Adams, and Josh Jacobs. He's reunited with his longtime offensive coordinator, Josh McDaniels. Las Vegas is probably a remarkable place to grow his brand, but I think he could grow his brand anywhere he goes. Defensively, are the Raiders much of an upgrade as well? I mean, you have Mad Max Crosby on that defensive line. They also have Chandler Jones on that defensive line. Do you think he joins the Las Vegas Raiders? Do you think he might ask for an ownership stake in whatever team he decides to join? Because bear in mind, when he was rumored to the Miami Dolphins last year, there was a rumored trade for Tom Brady in place that would give him a minority stake in the Dolphins, and apparently he was trying to unite with Sean Payton, but that fell through. There's a myriad of directions that Tom Brady's career could go next. You could see him retire and decide to accept the $375 million contract that Fox offered him just to commentate 16 games throughout the season. So if you're a Cowboys fan, let me know how you're feeling tonight. Do you feel optimistic for the future? If you're a Bucs fan, it's been a tough season, man. I know it seems like this team never was able to get clicking. You guys had optimism through it all because you have the greatest quarterback of all time. But now there's questions in regards to his future. What do you think the future is looking like for Tom Brady? If Tom Brady leaves, who replaces Tom Brady at the quarterback position? I'd like to hear what you have to say. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping her mic until our next upload.